Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and I believe this is August 11th. And I haven't posted a video in a few days. I've actually got a few of them that'll be coming out, so make sure you're paying attention to the notifications on the channel because we were going to have a few videos that come out, and I have filmed them over the past few days. I just have been very tired. We are getting to the end of the garden season. And at this time, it's just I've put so much into the gardening that it becomes to the point that I get tired. So we have been harvesting every day as far as beans go and all kinds of things that are in the garden. I've been paying attention to like flowers and stuff like that as well. We are at the time of year where I went and picked up some mums. I don't start those by seed. Those are something that I do pick up. So we're out here in the garden right now, and you can see that our beans are up pretty tall now. They're all the way almost to the top of the trellis. And, well, some of them are at the top of the trellis and have went past the top of the trellis, like a couple of these guys. And I think these are the Kentucky Wonder pole beans. They have surprisingly surpassed the rattlesnake pole beans as far as height goes. But the rattlesnake pole beans are, as I've noticed, a longer season bean. So they're taking a bit longer to get up there and get going, but they are. They have reached the top of the green trellis and are actually starting to reach over to try to get to the other one. So we do have a few of those that are pretty big. And I did notice a little bit of a difference with the rattlesnake pole beans is that they started producing at the very bottom of the vines pretty much right off the bat. So we've got a lot of rattlesnake pole beans and Kentucky Wonder beans and the contender bush beans in here. I know it doesn't look like that probably in comparison with a whole lot of other gardens that are much bigger gardens and things like that, because we've only got about a half of a row equivalency in three rows right there. But something that I did test this season was planting the 3 rows together pretty closely. I'll show you right here. There used to be 3 rows. They're kind of all running together now. But you can see we did put the 3 rows very close together, and it was a success. I've actually had more beans. It took a little bit for them to get going, I guess because of the season we had this season. So it kind of threw me off on whether they were going to be good beans or not. But the contender bush beans, of course, were the first ones that started producing. They're a 40-day bean, so they were pretty much ready to go very quickly. But the pole beans were not very far behind. They started producing pretty soon, and basically they have just ran all together. And even the bush beans will run a little bit. They just do not get super huge. But as you can see, they just kind of all went together, but we didn't have any problem with production. They got plenty of light and had plenty of heat, so they are doing great. So next year I will plant them close together like this, and we'll see what we make of it. But I'm going to be planting more beans, more of the staple crops next season than I did this season, even with the basically triple to quadruple the amount of stuff that I've planted this year from last season. We still just did not have enough. I don't think to get all through the winter, but I may be surprised. I don't know. I didn't think that the onions would do a whole lot of anything, and it ended up that we did have quite a few that got up to medium size. They're still growing, of course. We've got a couple of them that have bent over now, which means that when they bend over like that at the that usually means that they're done growing as far as bulb size. So, but we've got plenty in here. Some of them are still green onion size, but a lot of them actually planted a lot later than the first run of onions. They're still in there in the same area, but just they're younger onions. So I'm going to give them a lot longer to get finished. In fact, I'm just going to leave the onions in here until the very last part of the season before I harvest them, just to give them enough time to really get some size on them. Our tomatoes have just went nuts in the last few days. Even the ones that did have a lot of blight damage on them or something, they have even started growing again. You can see the two that had very, very bad blight damage, one here, one there. That one has all new growth on it, and it's all very healthy looking. So I'm very surprised about that. I actually stopped trimming them and just let it be. Just let it be. And I'm actually seeing some new growth on this one too. There's a little bit of some leaf damage at the bottoms of some of the other tomatoes, but that usually is more age related than anything else. I'm not seeing any issues with production. I mean, all of this up here is still plenty of green, and we have tomatoes that are setting on the vines, and these are the giant ox hearts, so you can see the definite ox heart shape. But they're just filling up all over the place, and this one limb of this tomato plant has just for some reason wanted to grow completely straight and out to the side versus the others, so it's just kind of hanging out over the onions. But everything is looking fantastic as far as growth and green and all of that. And we've got lots of red curry squash still in here, and they are just going nuts. Guys, they have taken over everything. They've crawled up the pea trellis. The peas are pretty much done for the season. We've still got some that are coming on, but it's sporadic now when they pop out any more new peas. We do have a couple of rows of peas that we're still catching up, so we'll still have some more peas. You can see these other rows here that are still producing like crazy because they're younger pea vines. We planted succession planting, so we'll get some more peas. It just won't be from the main vines anymore because they're just about done. And I've left some on here to go to seed, so we can collect for seed for next season, even though I may not be putting these particular types of peas back in the ground. I think I'm going to go with the first 13 for next season. And like I said, the red curry vines are just absolutely going nuts. They've kind of almost taken over the peppers. Peppers are still blooming, still producing, and most of them are to the top of their poles. The poles vary from size of 4 feet to 6 feet, and you can see the 6 feet ones are about 3/4 of the way up, and with the 4 foot ones, they're mostly to the top. So pretty big, and we've actually got the red curry invading here. You can see that. And we've got a vine over there that's not from the red curry but from the zucchini. So I had one zucchini plant that decided it wanted to have some runners on it. I probably should have went vertical with them. I don't really do squash unless as far as vertical trellising, unless they're zucchinis or acorn squash or something like that, because they don't typically have very long vines anyway, and they don't really have secondary roots that go into the ground at the joints because there's not a whole lot of joints on them. But that's an idea for next season, is go vertical with those guys, just to basically try to keep them from going into the other sections. So anyway, there's that. And then the back part of the red curry vines have actually went all the way out to where my cabbages are. So they're kind of encroaching on my cabbage area. You can see that over there. We've got lots of really nice sized cabbage in here at this point, and some of the ones that were not producing anything all season have suddenly started wanting to produce something. So they've started getting their little circle part in the middle. That means that they're going to be putting on their cabbage. And then of course we've got the ones we planted for fall, just to basically fill out in the sections that some either died off or whatever happened. And we've got some more broccoli in there that we've done for fall planting, and it's a Cisco Broccoli, which is a shorter season. It only takes 42, 45 days to finish, and I have noticed that it grows very, very fast because they were super tiny when I put them in here, and they're already getting pretty good sized. And you can see we have cabbages in here like crazy. Even some of the ones that were not doing anything are now doing something now. Especially this one I had up front. I kept worrying that it was going to die off, and it isn't. It's producing a cabbage now. We still haven't seen any broccoli heads yet, but they are so close to it. It's just crazy. These were a longer season broccoli. I think this was the Walton broccoli. So I think I'm going to pull away from that next season because they just take so long and we have such a short season, and go with something like the Cisco Broccoli or some other varieties that take less time. Our celery, it's hard to see down in here now because of the zucchini and everything, and which apparently this actually helped it. Having a little bit more shade than it did. So I got the idea to grow celery from Charles Dowding, and there was a lot of things that have been told about celery, like you have to grow it in a lot of manure and all of this. We have zero manure in here. There's a little bit of some black cow compost from a couple of years ago that I put in here, but other than that, it's just mostly native soil, and we haven't really done a whole lot of fertilizing. But I have celery that is ready to harvest now, that is bigger than the stuff that's in the stores that you purchase. So just a word to the wise there. I mean, these zucchini plants are easily, as you can see, 3 feet tall or more, because these stakes over here for the peppers are 4 feet, and they go down about a foot in the soil, and you can see they're right at the top of that, and so is the celery. So our celery is huge, and we've been eating a little bit on it all season, honestly. But now, as far as like size, it's up to the size that it's supposed to be, that you could harvest it, that you would have a bunch of celery, and it's absolutely beautiful. It is so flavorful, so much better than what's in the store. It's not fibrous at all. It is just gorgeous celery. Let me see if I can show you a stalk in there. It's kind of hard at this point, but you can see a stalk right there. Yeah, gorgeous celery. And I've got so many zucchini in here right now. It's crazy. I've got this size a zucchini on every plant that's in here, and some of them are even bigger. I've got one in there that I know of that is a lot bigger, and I need to get back there and harvest it. It's just getting kind of hard to get in there, but I have to do it. Our green onions are still looking great back there. They're getting kind of covered up by the red curry, but they were already full size anyway. So those green onions they're like 3 feet tall or more. They're so big. Our sunflowers are getting ready to bloom. We've got their heads on them now. We are not going to have the 10 feet or more size this season. And I've noticed that everyone's sunflowers in this area, or that I know of, do not have the humongous sunflowers that some of them had last season. I had, as you know, if you've been watching the channel last season, I had sunflowers that were well more than 10 feet tall. I've had some even make it to almost 20 feet before. And this year I'm just not going to have it. It's just not been a very good season for that kind of thing. We've got carrots that are really forming up heads now. I pulled one of the carrots yesterday, and my little dogs actually like carrots, and one of them, the oldest one, she knows what carrots are, and she will come in the garden and dig her own. But since we've gotten it fenced, she's been a good girl and not been getting into the garden. So I pulled her a carrot and cut it up for her, and she had a good time with that. And our lettuce is still looking beautiful. I haven't pulled a whole lot off of this lettuce because I just wanted to have some really pretty salads for when it starts becoming fall. And I'm going to go ahead and start harvesting some of it, because we've got some of it trying to go to bolt, especially the more romaine variety of the lettuce. And our beans are up now, where we replanted, where we took the potatoes out. We have carrots through here, which are all coming up now. You can see a little bit of some greenery in there from carrots coming up. And then we've got some parsnips in here. I haven't seen any come up yet. I've always not had very good luck with parsnips, and I don't really like them. So maybe I'm just not giving them any good vibes. But our beans are starting to come up, or already are up. These are the contender beans and are done in 40 days. So hopefully we will have enough time to get those finished. We have our cabbages coming up over here, and again, they will handle a frost, even some snow. So they are coming up. I don't know if they will do anything, if it will be enough time to do so, because we get cold so quickly here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And again, we're Garden Zone 5A, 5B, so sometimes it's really difficult to have any sort of a fall planting on things. Our radishes are all up and looking beautiful. Already starting to get their more mature leaves. And our daikon radishes, unfortunately, at the end of the row here with the carrots, they keep wanting to go to seed. They keep bolting. So I'm not happy with this particular variety. These were daikon radish long, and they came from Burpee. So Burpee, don't like your product. Didn't have any good growing product, I guess, for the daikon radishes. They are daikon long, and they are still very, very tiny when you pull them. And even though they're trying to bolt, as you can see that one there. And the temperatures have not been to the point where things like that should be bolting. We've been in the mid to upper 80s at this point, and most things are just really happy with that, but not these daikon radishes. They just want to bolt. And that soil in there is good because we have, beautiful carrots that come out of here and other radishes that come out of here just fine. So not happy with that. I need to get a different variety of daikon, I think. Not long, just a standard daikon radish, and give that a try. And we waited for a very long time. If you remember, we had an experiment with a sweet potato that we had put into a container to try to see if we could get some potato slips, sweet potato slips. After all that time, we finally have a couple of sweet potato slips in here, and it's way too late in the season to try to do anything with them. But I'm going to try anyway, just to see how far along that we can get, and if sweet potatoes will grow here. It's awfully cool soil, so I'm not real sure that they will, and I may have to just search for a variety that will do well in this climate. So I will check that out. But these are just a standard variety of sweet potato. We got a couple of slips. There should have been more, but there's only 2. And we'll try to get those rooted. Just put them in some water and let them root for a week. And then we'll get them out into the soil and see what can happen with those. So as you can see, we've got a few little sunflowers here that are bloomed. This is a shorter variety. And then I picked up that mum, and that mum is absolutely just loaded with blooms, and it was really cheap. And you can see it's huge. It's just a huge mum. I'm going to get it transplanted into a larger container just to see how many blooms we can end up getting out of this guy. But most of them have not bloomed yet, so it's not even full of blooms. And it should stay bloomed for a very long time, but it's massive. And then we picked up an aster as well. You can see here, and it's just absolutely full of blooms too. It's not quite as huge as the mums, but it is fairly large. And you can see the rest of the garden is doing really well. I won't go through each individual thing, except for maybe the kale here. That is the Dinosaur Kale. It's finally just really starting to get some size on it and starting to look more like kale is supposed to. It just kind of struggled all season long. And as you know, I had to plant it a couple of times just to get to that far. And the beets are looking great. We've got nice heads on the beets already, and I could be harvesting some, but I want them to get just a little bit bigger. And we have lots of pumpkins in here and squash, and I think I even put in a butternut squash by accident. I just went ahead and planted a whole bunch of different squash in here, and we've got some weird ones in there. But yeah, I got a butternut squash in here that I was a little bit surprised about, and we got a whole bunch of different things going on in here, and we ended up with what I believe is a Boston marrow, or it could just be that I had one that was cross-pollinated from last season or something, but it looks a lot different. Let me see if I can show it to you. The vines are just getting kind of nuts now, but there you can see it in there. But we've got all kinds of squash setting on here, and pumpkins. Here's a pumpkin right here, and I think this is another pumpkin right here. It just looks like an odd shape, probably because of the way it pollinated. And we've got a white pumpkin coming on down here. So got quite a few things going on down in these vines, and some of them are running even further along, and I've had them go 50, 75 feet before. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. I need to get this guy up, and basically I just kind of trellis them along the fence at this point. So there we go with that. But yeah, just going nuts. Our rhubarb is still going nuts. Swiss chard is really getting huge now, especially this one. I think this one is a Ford hook that was mixed into the different colors of Swiss chard. And our radishes are definitely coming along. And our acorn squash is actually getting bigger over here, that's in the shade, and it's starting to produce a little bit, so that's exciting. And then now we're over here in the north side of the garden, which we still haven't done. We're not doing a whole lot over here, just some pumpkins and things. But our Big Mac's pumpkin is growing like crazy, finally. And so is the other one. The other one's starting to get some runners on it. That is the mesh cage that goes over our strawberries over here. We just kind of took it off and let the strawberries do what they want to do. If they want to root into the ground, which a lot of the runners, as you can see, are coming out of the kiddie pool and going down onto the ground. If they want to do that, we're going to let them, because there's not really a whole lot over here in this area really to begin with. So we'll see if we get some strawberries to latch onto the ground over here. But we still have strawberries producing. We still have acorn squash coming on. You can see these are blooming and starting to produce here. And I think I did plant a cucumber in here just to have it in the kiddie pool, because we had watermelons in the other one. And this one is doing fantastic. And then we've got some dill back here, just because I had an extra spot to put some dill. And we've got another couple of cucumbers over here. This was the area where we had French pie pumpkins, and I think I pulled those out, or didn't pull them out, but they didn't come up. So I just went ahead and put in a couple of cucumber seeds, and they are starting to bloom and think about producing. And the Delicata squash that's over here is blooming. But for some reason it looks like a bush instead of running. I thought they would be more of a running variety of pumpkin. So, And we have one lily remaining out of all the lilies we had this season. And it is an Asian variety, so you can see it is nice and white and pink. It's very pretty, but something is chewing on the petals now. And now we're back over here in the main part of the garden, and up along the fence we have our mints. All of our mints are still doing wonderful, and our marjoram. And then we have our sunflowers over here also lining the fence, and I did go ahead and put a string around those, just a piece of twine, and tied it to the fence just to keep them a little bit more stable, because sometimes I would come out here and they would be laying over. So we've got that there. And we have an issue with squirrels and sunflowers here, so I'm surprised these have actually went this long. We do this to deter them from the garden, is to plant the sunflowers. And a lot of times I'll come out here and they'll be completely broken, and the squirrels have taken the heads off of them, and they haven't even opened yet, or they will just have opened and they haven't made any seeds yet, but the squirrels are just, I don't know, being ridiculous. But that is their thing, is to be the sacrifice to keep them out of the main garden, which works just fine, as well as the pans. And we've got a dragonfly out here that must be warning me of something, because it keeps hitting me on the shoulder as it flies through. So I don't know, it doesn't want me in the area. I guess it wants to catch bugs or something. And that's our comfrey. Our comfrey has bloomed, and it has the prettiest little blooms on it. You see those? And I keep mine in a container because I don't want it to take over the garden. And so far that has worked. Right now it's sitting on cement, so it can't really go anywhere. And everything else is just looking wonderful through here. We are getting some Delicata Squash on the Delicata Squash plants that have just really started. But the plants are looking beautiful now. They're really starting to spread out, get runners on them. So I thought they were going to be a bush variety, but it seems that they are going to be a running variety. So I don't know. We'll see how big they get. I may have to end up trellising them because there's a fence here. They could definitely climb up on the fence, but they're growing out into the walkway. So I don't want them to take over the walkway. So we'll find out what happens with those. And we've got a few more sunflowers over here, and I just did the same thing, just kind of tied them up. And I may put some streamers on the string or some ribbons or something like that that'll kind of flap in the wind and scare the squirrels a little bit, maybe some different colors. Green and black. Squirrels do not like green and black because they think green and black is a snake. Just to let you know. Our roses out here doing beautifully. And as I said, roses usually bloom twice. They will bloom again around the end of August or early September, and that's exactly what happens because we've already got buds on these roses again. And it looks like they're actually going to have more than they had in their spring summer blooming, so looking forward to that. Haven't seen any bloom heads on this one, but this one gets them so fast that one day you'll come out here and the next day they'll have bloom heads. And so I don't know, I will see. And our artichokes are still trying to do something, but I need to get in here and weed because we've got dandelions that are just taking over like crazy in here. So I need to get out here and weed all of this. And I guess I'll just bring something in to pop those dandelions out. I'm not sure why so many came up. We haven't really let anything go to seed as far as dandelions in here, but I guess they're just propagating by the roots. So anyway, we've got some acorn squash right here, and they are blooming and starting to produce. They're not very big, but they are. And like I said, there's the beans and the tomatoes again. Our potatoes have not really started dying back yet. Still, we've got some yellowing of the leaves at the bottom, and we do have a couple of them that are kind of laying over now, as you can see. So I don't think it'll be very far off that they will start to die back. I'm just not sure why they haven't done it already. We do have more tomatillos that are coming up on the volunteer tomatillo plants over here that have definitely started producing. You can see that there. And I guess they just got seeded here from the tomatillos from last season. Even though I don't remember any of them getting into here, I pretty much think we harvested all of them. So I'm a little surprised that they came over here. But I guess that's what happened. One must have fell off or something like that and seeded. All of our sunflowers in here are just about ready to bloom. And, you know, this one is a mammoth sunflower here. So, and as you can see, it's not very big, but it will bloom. And like I said, everything is just kind of shorter this year. The season was off. The soil was cold. There was a whole lot of factors that came into why the sunflowers are short. And some of the things are just not producing like they did last season. And there was just a whole lot of different reasons why. But I believe we'll be going into a part 2, and I'll just go through all of the things in the garden. I'm not going into descriptive details of every single thing, but it just gives you a general overview of the garden. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we will see you in the part 2.